Hello, I'm Tina Cosby with WTLC's Community Connection on AM 1310, 92.7 FM and 95.1 FM The Light. And I am here with Indiana Department of Workforce Development Commissioner Fred Payne. Mr. Payne, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm trying to make sure that I stay warm and stay safe and stay healthy.
Okay, well, you can. We can do all of that. I think we can get it all done in the time that we have allotted. So, the Department of Workforce Development is a huge department, and first of all, can you explain what it is, what you do, and for those who may not know, what the Department of Workforce Development doesn't do?
Okay. Well, Tina, that's a good question. The Department of Workforce Development serves as the state's employment and reemployment agency. We're responsible for providing job services, job training, and job resources to individuals who are out of work, those individuals who are trying to end up recalibrating their skills to get an additional job, and to help employers find skilled and educated employees to fill the jobs that they have available. In addition to that, we oversee and administer the state's unemployment insurance trust fund. And in 2018, we started the Office of Work-Based Learning and Apprenticeship. So we expand apprenticeship opportunities throughout the state, as well as work with companies and educational institutions in providing work-based learning opportunities.
Very quite comprehensive and all-encompassing. It's a lot. So tell us your story. How was it that you came to be the commissioner of the Department of Workforce Development?
Okay. Well, first off, I'm an attorney by training. I practice employment and labor law here in Indianapolis. And then several years ago, when Honda Manufacturing of Indiana was going to build a facility, I ended up transitioning to an in-house counsel position role at Honda. So I became their lawyer. I worked through and I became general counsel, and then started overseeing all of the business operations. Some of it included, staffing and workforce development types of issues. And then in 2017, the governor wanted to take an approach of workforce development through the eyes of industry. So he asked me to take on this role and oversee the Department of Workforce Development and bring sort of an industry point of view. So I've been serving in this role since December of 2017. 2017,
yeah. So has public service always been your calling, or is this your first round in public service?
This actually is my first round in officially serving as a public servant, and I can tell you that helping the public and helping individuals, it is something that you're called to do, and I think we have a responsibility to do it. So when the opportunity presents itself, we have to step in and lean into it.
So as prepared as you are with your attorney background and all of your, your entire background, there's nothing that could have prepared any of us for the last 12 to 15 months with the pandemic. So just starting with just you personally, what has that been like for you? And then we'll talk about what it's been like on the job. So just in your personal life, what has it been like?
Well, with my family, just like many other families, we tried to make sure that we had our bubble, and we were being respectful of the CDC guidelines and the guidelines from the Department of Health. So there was a lot of close connection in our house, and communicating with family members and friends who were not inside of our house. We did a lot of FaceTiming. We did a lot of the Zooming and all the other digital platforms to make sure that we were staying connected with our friends and our family members. I got very creative in the kitchen. I cooked a lot of different meals, and there were quite a few home projects as well that we worked on. And then with our two younger children, then when things began to open back up a little bit, we wanted to make sure that we were keeping the bubble as much as we could, but we expanded it a little bit with returning to school and engaging in sporting activities. So we made sure that we were taking all the precautions, but we knew that it was important to have as much engagement as the moment would allow.
What did your family philosophy become during this? I mean, pro-vaccine, wait and see, we're all going to do it. I mean, how did all that evolve within you?
Within us, we follow the science. We listen to Dr. Box quite a bit. And when the opportunity presented itself as soon as possible, we were all vaccinated, and so were our children.
So let's get back to the Department of Workforce Development. Layoffs, a number of people struggling to make ends meet. But you also had another perspective being right there within the DWD. So Can you share with everyone what that was like and how you navigated that? How did you do that?
Sure. Well, that was, we're still not out of it. We are still in a historic time when it comes to unemployment and the number of people who are seeking jobs right now. It's sort of a two-edged sword right now. We have low unemployment right now. We're at 3.9%. But we still have quite a few individuals who are filing for unemployment insurance. And I'm going to let some numbers tell the story for me a little bit. Let's go back to 2019.
Okay.
In 2019, we paid 82,000 individuals in Indiana unemployment insurance benefits. 82,000.
Population of Indiana is what?
Was 6.6 million.
Okay.
So 82,000 people paid unemployment insurance benefits in 2019. In 2020, we paid 797,000 people unemployment insurance benefits. That tells you the magnitude just from 1 year. Okay, from 2015 to 2019, we paid a little over 480 something thousand individuals. So in 1 year, more unemployment insurance benefits were paid to more Hoosiers than were paid in the previous 5 years combined.
How did you do that? How did you staff it? How did you keep up with the demand? I remember we used to watch very closely every week. The governor had his weekly coronavirus task force response and update, and you were a big part of that, explaining and talking us through. But how did you do that? Did you have people working 24/7? I mean, how did it all work out? Because the numbers were incredible.
We did. We tried to make sure that we were appropriately staffed. Initially, prior to 2020, prior to March 2020, our average weekly claim count was about 2,500. And we averaged anywhere between 100 to 200 calls a week. So that was the staffing level that we had. In March, early March 2020, about 2,500 claims being filed. But we quickly shot up to 140,000 claims in a week. So we had to quickly adjust. And we established a strategy early on that focused on leaning into technology, automation, and human talent, because we knew that we needed those three things to really get through the storm that we saw coming. And as you well know, anytime you see a storm coming, if you're not anchored, you're going to get blown away. So we tried to make sure that we were anchored in sound decision making, and we knew what we needed to get through, because it was going to get pretty rocky and pretty rough. And so the technology, automation, and the human talent, we needed to also have the fortitude to stick with our strategy even when the times got a little tough, because we knew that there were going to be suggestions made about trying something new. There would always be something new on the market, and it would revolutionize whatever the situation was.
Right.
So we needed the fortitude. So our small team, our small leadership team had the fortitude, and we stuck with that plan. We had to make adjustments. So what did we do quickly? We didn't have the staffing from a call center standpoint to handle the onslaught of calls that we were getting. So again, we're going from 100 to 200 calls a week to almost 100,000 calls in 2 or 3 day time period. So we outsourced and we got a call center. We contracted with an outside entity to handle our call center. Then we quickly adjusted employees within state government, not just within the Department of Workforce Development. We ended up transitioning employees from all over state government to help us with unemployment insurance matters. Then we contracted other employees, so we had to staff up. So we quickly staffed up. But some of the challenges that we ran into is that the individuals who are there adjudicating unemployment insurance claims, they're trained 3 to 6.5 months to do that job. We had to quickly train individuals to do those jobs in a week or 2 weeks. So that was part of the challenge. How could we get them trained? But there's also a delta in there. The delta was we're having to do all this remotely. So now we have to train remotely. We have to hire remotely. and we have to adjudicate everything remotely. So again, we stuck with the strategy, as we knew that in order for us to be able to pay at least 85% of the claims going through within a 21-day time period, which was our rate prior to the pandemic, we really did need to lean into technology and automation. Wow. And we were able to do that. But the volume of the 10 to 15% is greater when it's 130,000 as opposed to 2,500. So we made sure that we continuously had people working and adjudicating claims. We had a lot of overtime, and we still have a lot of that happening now. At this point, I'm going to use the word stabilize. It's probably not the best word, but I'm going to use stabilize. Our claims count is a little bit more stabilized than they were, obviously, this time last year. Mm-hmm. So last week we had approximately 6,000 initial unemployment claims filed. That's still a historic high compared to our average of about 2,500 a week.
Wow.
A year prior. But we don't have the volatility that we had. So we're not having 6,000 this week, and then the next week we have 25,000. That's why I say we're a little bit more stabilized in terms of the count that we're having.
So was there a point or a moment when you said this is real and we have to, because what a lot of people did throughout COVID, wait and see, let's wait. We think it's going to get bad. We think it's going to be here, and we think it might be there. And people were kind of just having contingency plan. At what point, or was there a point for you? Maybe there wasn't. Maybe you just kind of just I guess, morphed into it. Was there a defining moment that says, we got to move?
The first week when we got 50,000 claims, it was real.
Okay.
So the first couple of weeks in March, average claim count was 2,500.
Okay.
Then it shot up to a little bit over 50,000. That was real.
Do you ever? Okay, 50,000 makes it real.
That was real.
So looking back now, and then you say, in air quotes, stabilized or whatever. Looking back over time now, is there anything that you would do differently, or are you pretty well pleased with it? I mean, what's your reflection now that we're at this point?
Sure. Anytime you look back through a situation like that, of course, you're going to look and think about how it could have done things differently. There are plenty of things that we look back and say, you know what, we could have done this better, we could have done that better. And one of the things that continuously comes to my mind when I think about messaging, I think about the communication piece. Initially, we wanted to get on every type of media platform possible to inform the public, because we knew a lot of people were filing for unemployment insurance that had never filed before.
Right.
We were starting new programs that didn't exist before. There was a classification of individuals who were filing who were never contemplated for unemployment, with gig workers and independent contractors. So we were trying to make sure we were getting the message out on how to apply, when to apply, and what to expect. If I had that moment again, I would stress more how difficult it would be. I will remind people that this is going to be a marathon. It's not a sprint. And so I think we would continue to communicate the way we did, but I would double down on making sure that people understood that it was going to be a marathon.
That's a good point. Let's switch now to, as we're getting people back to work, you say the unemployment rate, 3.9%? 3.9%. The wealth gap.
Yes.
That everyone's talking about. What can DWD do to help bridge that in the state of Indiana?
So part of what we're doing is we're focusing on what I'm calling our triennium plan. So over the next 3 years, coming out of this pandemic, we have a system side, and then we also have a people side. The system side is really dealing with our unemployment insurance system and the infrastructure, lessons learned and what we will do for that. In terms of preparing people and helping them to really shorten that wage gap and to almost eliminate it in the short term, and over the long term completely eliminate it, there's a focus on people and not programs. The focus is education and training. I don't believe anyone doubts that the economic highway really is training and education. There's no way around it. We have to ensure that people are trained and people are educated. So we're focusing on just rallying around our state goal of attainment and trying to ensure that at least 60% of the adult people in Indiana have a post-secondary credential.
Wow.
They have something beyond high school, because the credential, the high school diploma, is great, but it's a start. And the jobs that will be available tomorrow require something more. So we have to prepare our citizens for that. So we're trying to make sure that we are ensuring that we have the resources available, meaning that we have the training. We've engaged with different partners throughout the state, whether it's Ivy Tech, whether it's Vincennes University, or other training providers throughout the state, engaging with them and engaging with employers so that they can inform us on what the jobs look like now and what that future looks like. And then we collaborate with them and develop a training. I call this kind of our 3Ds. So we engage with them and we develop training and education. Then we have to make sure that we're creating awareness around it and drawing people to the training and education. And then once we draw them in, we have to make sure that we're delivering the training by today's standards and today's platform. The pandemic let us know that we can provide training on multiple platforms. They don't all have to be in person. They can be via some digital platform, and we've done that. So I really believe, and based on the data, the more people have education and training, it provides them with more opportunity for what I call economic mobility.
Okay.
And what do I mean by economic mobility? Each one of us, we're our own economic tool. The things that I learn, the things that I know, the skills that I have, that's an economic tool. I have them. And the more that I have, the more I can adjust to the economy when we have something like a pandemic. The more tools, the more skills that I have, I'm able to flex a little more or a little less based upon my situation. And we want to make sure that we're getting Hoosiers to that point. And so we want to accelerate that on individuals who have less education and training. We want to accelerate that. But what we also want to make sure that we're sending the message that individuals who are doing well, we don't want that to stop either.
Yeah.
We want everyone to continue to prosper.
I'm curious about how you arrived at the 60% number. Why is that number critical? And also, is this a new role for employers? I mean, exactly, is this a role that employers have always played, or are you asking more of employers?
Employers have always played this role, but they've been a little bit more silent. Employers realize now more and more that there are partnerships throughout the state that we need to have. Employers need to help inform educational institutions on what needs to be taught and how it needs to be taught to make it relevant, which is why we're looking at career and workforce preparation and relevance. And in order for the training that we have to be relevant, we really need the employer's input. So it's not something new, it's something that we need more of. And the 60% goal, it's around the jobs that will be available tomorrow. By the year 2023, more than 60% of the jobs that will be available will require beyond a high school diploma. So we came about that number based upon the demand of jobs in the future and what it will take to get those jobs.
Is it still a fairly safe assumption that if the state's unemployment rate is 3.9%, then the unemployment rate for African Americans and other minorities is twice that? Is it still safe to assume that?
It's safe to assume that the African American unemployment rate generally trends a little bit higher than the average, the state overall rate. Yes.
Final question for you, and I'll read it to you. If you could close your eyes and ask for anything, what would you ask? What would your ask be to improve the socioeconomics environment for African Americans in Indiana?
When I close my eyes and think about that, I think about greater awareness, greater access, and greater taking advantage more to the resources that are available. We all need to take more advantage of the resources that are available, and we need to do it at a higher level.
Indeed. Commissioner Payne, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
We can shake hands now.
Yes, we
We're
can.
both fully vaccinated. Fred Payne, Commissioner of the Indiana Department of Workforce Development.